Welcome back. Fires are an unfortunate reality for Central Coasters and all Californians.
We're joined by Santa Barbara native Gabriel Kirkpatrick-Mann, director of California wildfire documentary titled Hot Shot, to talk all things fire with us from his unique perspective. Gabriel, good morning and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. You know, growing up, going to La Cumbre and Santa Barbara High and UC Santa Barbara, all I ever wanted was to be like John Palminteri, have a mustache and be on KAYT, so it's good to finally be there.
You just accomplished both of those goals, Gabriel.
Nailed it.
All right, well, like you mentioned, you grew up in Santa Barbara. You were probably exposed to wildfires early on. Is there a specific fire that initially sparked your interest in this field?
Well, as we know, Santa Barbara is fire country, and I started filming right before the Thomas Fire. And at that time, it was the biggest fire in California history. And so a lot of Santa Barbara natives are going to recognize that in the film, as well as footage from the Cave Fire. We all remember the Painted Cave Fire, then we had that sequel in 2019. In fact, the entire final sequence of the film is all filled up in the hills above San Marcos Pass. And so I would say it's a part of life for Santa Barbara, it's part of life for Southern California, and I feel like we're starting to get a better awareness of how to manage it. So it's been fortunate to see, and we're hoping that this film helps to drive that narrative a little bit further.
Gabriel, according to CAL FIRE, there have been over 6,100 wildfires in California this year alone. One of those fires in San Bernardino, the Line Fire, and then you have the Airport Fire burning in Orange and Riverside County. What do you know about those two specific fires that we have?
Well, the Line Fire is quite disturbing because it was an act of arson. And if you look at the roughly 1 million acres that have burned in California so far this year, half of them are from arson. So it is a growing problem in California. But the fires that we're seeing in Southern California, it's like deja vu, because the Line Fire in San Bernardino, the Bridge Fire in the Angeles National Forest, they're mimicking both the El Dorado Fire and the Bobcat Fire from 2020. And they're burning just adjacent to where those fires were. And what we often see is all those puzzle pieces in between the fires do eventually get filled. There's an inevitability to wildfire that we do have a hard time coping with. But what we see time and time again is they follow the same exact patterns, they burn in the same way. And so once we recognize that, we know our fire history, they become a lot easier to predict and to adapt to.
And Gabriel, you mentioned that Congress is going to slash wildland firefighter pay by 40% at the end of this month. What are those implications? What does that mean for firefighters?
Well, over the last several years, due to a mix of poor mandates and low pay, there's been a level of attrition with the U.S. Forest Service where they've lost about 40% of their firefighting workforce, and it's been devastating. Right now, these fires are getting out of control because they're understaffed. And they're understaffed because they're not being paid well. Congress was faced with an opportunity to permanently raise the pay to stop hemorrhaging all these hotshots that are leaving the agency. Unfortunately, Mr. Carbajal did vote against it, but it does look like it could pass. The only worry now is a government shutdown. So if that happens, the end of this month, wildland firefighters in the U.S. Forest Service could have their pay cut in half, and we might lose even more, and then we're even more vulnerable, especially going into these autumn months where in Santa Barbara we know that's when the fires start to get really bad.
Yeah, wow.
Gabriel, for those who aren't familiar with your documentary, how would you summarize what Hot Shot is about for them?
Hot Shot is about just about the craziest job you could ever imagine. Hotshots hike into the most difficult, challenging, hottest parts of the fire, and they put it out by hand, without water. They're animals, they have beards, they live out in the wildlands for 2 weeks at a time. They're some of the most elusive and mythical creatures in wildland fire. That's what made the subject so compelling. I hiked after them for 6 years so you could get a firsthand POV of just what it's like to have this insane job.
Wow. I mean, just from seeing the trailer alone, it looks incredible. That video is amazing. And I do want to say it is a grassroots effort. You independently funded that and you made it happen, and it's now ranked #1. So that really is quite the accomplishment, Gabriel. We want to thank you so much for your time. We can talk so much more about this. Hopefully we can get you back on our show to discuss all things fire, because unfortunately it's always timely regardless of the time of year here in Santa Barbara and the Central Coast. We'll have a link to Gabriel's documentary on our mobile app and website, along with everything we just discussed. Gabriel, thank you again for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.